A study by Worldwide Works and Fuseware has revealed that Facebook is being used by about 13 million South Africans, which is a quarter of the country's population, and all these people have the means to write, publish and circulate articles and video recordings faster than newspapers and television stations. And this uptake in social media has, however, landed many individuals in hot water for posting defamatory content or offending a certain group of people. Now, we've seen many of these cases in the media over the last few years. And to tell us a little bit more about a new innovation, it's social media liability insurance. So you can basically protect yourself if you're going to be really stupid out there in social media world. And that's Simon Coleman, and he's head of commercial solutions at SHA Specialist Underwriters. Simon, good evening. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me, Carl.
Well, I'm surprised it's taken so long for somebody to come up with insurance to try and protect people who really should know better than to say what they do.
Yeah, look, insurers are normally quite slow to react to emerging risks. You know, we get very comfortable insuring cars and buildings, and every now and again something in the liability environment. So yeah, it is pretty surprising that social media, whilst it's being used so extensively, nobody's really thought about the risks and insuring those things. It's something we've been working on for the past 8 months. So we launched recently, and it's been very successful so far.
It's not only about people not thinking before they commit things to social media, but it's about possibly taking pictures of people that haven't given you permission to post them as well. I mean, that's the other thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, we had that rather tragic incident a few months ago where the hockey mom accidentally sent a picture of herself to a group on WhatsApp, and then somebody posted that picture or reposted it without her permission, obviously causing a lot of embarrassment. And that's a real invasion of privacy, you know, and somebody may have, I'm sure that the intent behind that wasn't malicious. Someone may have thought that that was really funny at the time, and then, of course, not really acknowledging what the impact was going to be afterwards. And I'm sure for her and her family, that was probably the worst time of her life.
So it's not, people need to be aware, it's not only a case of you posting something yourself, but if you retweet something, you could also be liable. Yeah,
I mean, you know, you're in the chain, so people often, and it's actually happened to me, I do a lot of I'm on social media a lot, I use it for business. You know, sometimes you'll get an article that looks great, you don't have time to read the whole thing, so you'll kind of scan through the content, maybe look at the first 3 or 4 paragraphs, and then retweet it to all of your followers, and of course, right at the bottom of the article, there might be some controversial statement. And as soon as you post it, you're saying it as well. So you could be sued by somebody that you've offended, or, you know, if somebody's been defamed in that article, you're going to be the one in trouble, as well as the person who wrote it originally.
So what sort of cover can we get, and how do we cover ourselves? And does this sort of cover all social media, or do you pick one? How's it going to work, Simon?
Well, look, it is very much, it's very new, so we've kind of taken a stab at what we believe the cover should be based on our experience with other liability type of insurance. It's not dissimilar to the kind of insurance that you would have attached to, let's say, your personal lines or your domestic insurance policy. There's a liability section in that policy, as you know, and if your dog rushes out the gate and bites the next door neighbor or somebody walking past, it would cover your defense costs as the owner of the dog and any damages for the injuries caused, medical expenses. That's a general liability type of exposure. So the social media liability works in the same way, except it's not your dog rushing out of the gate. It's you pressing that send or tweet or post button and wishing that you could get it back, and then somebody coming forward and saying, look, you posted something defamatory about me, or you've invaded my privacy and I'm actually going to sue you. And it covers your legal defense costs and the damages as well if the case is unsuccessfully defended. And you don't need to choose, to answer your other question, which platforms or which forms of social media you're going to be insured against. It pretty much covers the whole range. So when you're going through the application process, you do have to list the various platforms that you're on. and then it will obviously respond. The policy will respond if there's any litigation following that. So it's pretty simple, actually.
Now, we've seen some very tragic cases over the last couple of years with children getting involved in the most horrendous things on social media. And would they be, can you take out a policy to cover the children as well?
Yeah, so look, it's not aimed specifically at children, and there was an article in the Sunday Times just after we launched where the journalist specifically focused on the children, and it almost came across like it was a policy aimed at children. It's not. As the parent, the main policy holder, it automatically extends to cover your dependents, so not necessarily just your children, but if you happen to have granny who's quite active on Twitter late at night, it would also extend to cover her. And the thinking there is, and I know that a lot of people go, well, is this encouraging our kids not to be responsible on social media if they know about this cover? And I would argue that no, it's not going to encourage that behavior. But by the same token, having an insurance policy in place really doesn't remove any of your obligations as the parent to educate your children and to discipline them if they step outside of the boundaries of what's acceptable. It's no different to teaching your kids to drive and getting them insurance. You don't buy the insurance and then just send them out onto the roads without giving them proper training and education. So it's there as call it a safety net. If things do go awry, it will cover them and it will defend them as well. It doesn't cover things like cyberbullying. It doesn't cover racism or any kind of cultural discrimination. So we've stayed away from some of those topics where one could argue that's where the trolls reside, as they're called on Twitter, people who are deliberately baiting other people to try and hurt them or get a reaction. That's not what this is. The policy is called Slip Up, which gives you some hint of the kind of event that's covered. It's an
inadvertent.
Exactly. It's somebody who tweeted something, like I said, the hockey mom incident, sent the picture, didn't realize what the repercussions were going to be for the owner of the picture, and then afterwards obviously realized that really somebody had been hurt here and needed to make good on that. So we really don't want to insure people that are deliberately trying to injure or harm or upset other people. It's inadvertent, accidental, if you like.
I always say when I'm sending an email, somebody I worked with many years ago always said to me, before you push send, go and have a cup of tea and come back and read it again. And, just think about it. If it's something that you're not too sure about sending in the first place, just take a minute. Don't just push send. Just have a minute, reread it, possibly walk away, come back. And maybe, if you're sending a WhatsApp or an SM or whatever you're doing, if it's something that you think because you must know in the back of your mind, this could possibly be something I shouldn't be saying, maybe just have a think about it before you hit send.
I think also, Corin, I remember my dad saying to me at some point early in my life, before I'd been to business dinners and lunches and things, and he said to me, there's some rules about stuff you don't talk about at the dinner table. You don't talk about religion, don't get into race or politics, and just keep it light and everything will be fine. I'm not suggesting people shouldn't engage on social media, but there are certain topics that are going to land you in trouble if you engage in those topics without thinking clearly about it. And of course, unlike a conversation like you and I are having now, I have some degree of control over how my message is received by you. I can use my voice tone. I can pause at certain points. I can't do any of that on social media. So, the message is lost. And there are no inflections or anything that tell you that it's not a malicious thing or a little chuckle at the end to tell you that it's a joke. And that's really where the danger is with social media.
The other thing about what you put on social media, I was talking to an attorney who's actually written a book on this particular topic about social media, is that, young people put the most bizarre things sometimes on social media, not realizing that as they get older and possibly applying for a job, their potential employer these days, strangely enough, will go and have a look at your profile on social media. And if you've posted the pictures of you lying in the gutter after a really bad Friday night, or, the weirdest pictures of you at these bizarre parties, it's all very well, but that could come back to haunt you later.
Absolutely. I mean, I think I know the attorney that you're talking about. And one of the things that she says, which I really like, is it's like a digital tattoo,
Yes, absolutely.
It sticks with you forever. So, I mean, there's common sense that needs to come into it. And as you were opening the conversation, you said something about people not realizing that, they've basically got a publishing company in their pocket.
Yes.
And the process you would have to go through as a journalist to get something out. We would go through several checks and balances. And people don't have that, even though they've got the ability to reach out to the entire planet.
Well, there's this thing now that's big news at the moment, is this fake news. I mean, people are putting stuff up and saying, oh, this is the news, and telling it's absolute rubbish. But that's what can happen, is that you can actually put up all sorts of things, defamatory things about a person, and pretend that it's real. And then you're going to end up having a very big slip-up.
Well, absolutely. And I mean, you look at, if you say something derogatory about a politician or a business person, you can actually affect the share price, the value of currency. These things they take on a life of their own. So the policy is saying, look, we acknowledge people are going to make mistakes. You should be able to insure yourself as you do from every other type of eventuality. But there is a certain degree of personal responsibility that remains, even once the insurance is taken out. So
now, the bottom line, Simon, if people think this could be something that they should be having in their portfolio of insurances, how do they go about getting hold of this? It's only the SHA that's actually doing this at the moment.
Yeah, so we're a wholly owned subsidiary of Santam, and we're specialists. So we don't distribute our insurance products directly to the public. We build them, and then they're distributed through licensed insurance brokers. So the only way that people can access this product right now is to chat to their insurance broker, and they will then get in touch with SHA, and then we'll put everything together with the broker.
Okay, so if you're listening to this and you think, gosh, this is definitely something I need, or I've got kids that I think I really need to insure myself against what they possibly might do, get hold of an insurance broker and just tell them that you would like to speak to them about the SHA social media liability insurance. And always remember, if you miss all this information, or if it's just too much to write down or remember, just drop me a line to law@safm.co.za and I will send you that information, and then you can go and find out more about it. Simon, thank you very much indeed for joining us on the show, and hopefully this has given people some peace of mind if they were getting a little panicked about what possibly they or their family could be potentially putting out there.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Karen.
Thanks for your time. I was chatting there with Simon Coleman. He's the head commercial solutions for SHA Specialist Underwriters. And if you'd like to find out more about this, as we said, you need to contact an insurance broker and ask them about SHA's social media liability insurance. And if you'd like me to send you that information, just telling you what it is you need to ask for, just drop me a mail at law@safm.co.za.